Okay, well look what I have here, another Magnavox ZV457MG9. This one got shipped in from Florida and it has a note. And it says, Steve, the unit and remote have been wiped down for your safety. Return in same box if possible. No problem. Just to recap the problem, most times it kicks out the tape, then turns off. Sometimes it will keep the tape, but start to eat it. The DVD seems to work okay. This unit dubs both ways. Thanks for what you do. And it is a Magnavox ZV457MG9A. And the 457 refers to the ATSC tuner that is built into this unit. So the ZV427 model does not have these antenna in and out, so you can tune a digital ATSC signal and have it convert it to standard definition, and that way you can record it to a VHS tape or a DVD. This unit does have the standard ATSC tuner in it. That, from what I can tell, is the only difference between the 427 and the 457. So let's go ahead and get the top off, do an initial inspection, and see what it looks like inside. Alright, so right off the bat, I'm suspecting a mode select switch oxidation issue, because typically that will lead to various problems each time you try to put a tape in. It might play at one time, it might eat at one time, it may not play it, it may eject it, it may not even load, the cylinder motor might not start. Many problems caused by an oxidized mode select switch. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pop a tape into it without even checking anything and see if it wants to go ahead and try to play the tape or if it eats it. I'm just going to grab a tape I don't really care about, and we'll pop it in and see what happens. Okay, so right off the bat, the first thing I notice, I can't put the tape in it because this little white tab right here is on the wrong side of the cassette door flap on the front of the unit. When you try to put the tape in it, it needs to be in that groove so it does not lift up that tab. That tab is what actually lifts up the door so the tape can eject. So I'm going to have to pull the front panel off of this unit and get that tab in the correct location. Remember, if you do take the front panel off your unit, make sure you hold the door up like this before you insert the front panel back on the unit so the tab can line up correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and remedy that very quickly, and then we'll pop a tape into it and see what it does. Okay, here we go. I've got the power on, and we'll try to get a tape into it and just see what happens here. And that time it's going to play the tape perfectly fine. This tape does have the record protection tab. Oh, nope, it just shut down. Everything shut down. Let's power it up. It's probably going to leave slack in the tape and try to eject it, but that's okay. It's just a tape I really don't care about. No, it's actually going to take it up and eject it. Let's try it one more time and see what happens. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to try to stop it. It will not let me stop the tape. And then it shut down again. Interesting. Okay, so I put the tape in and out several more times, and now check this out. And now it's playing without shutting down. So once again, that leads me to believe we have an oxidized mode select switch, the rotary encoder, because as you work these switches back and forth, it actually cleans them a little bit, polishes the silver contacts in them. Okay, so if you haven't seen it before, we'll go ahead and tear this thing apart and show you how to clean the mode select switch in this unit. We'll go ahead and get the stainless steel toothbrush out. We'll polish the contacts. We'll get some magical solution acetone. We'll clean up the residue. We'll get some silicone dielectric grease. We'll go ahead and grease those contacts up to prevent air from contacting them any further. Then we'll put it back together and we'll see if that takes care of it. Along the way, because I got to tear so much of this unit apart, we'll go ahead and check the power supply capacitors just to see what shape, especially that one main 4700 microfarad 6.3 volt capacitor is in. We don't want that thing dying a couple of weeks from now. Anyhow, let's get started. Okay, so just because you've seen me do it so many times, I'm not going to narrate the disassembly, but I think I will go ahead and continuously record this and then time lapse it in a faster speed so you can get a quick rundown of what to do. I'm going to start by removing the front panel, take off the support brace. We'll take out up the 4 screws from the DVD unit, unplug these 2 connectors. They just simply pull out. We'll have to remove the power supply, which is underneath the DVD mechanism. Several screws, 3 in the back, 2 in the front on the VHS mechanism. Miscellaneous screws all over the circuit board to hold it down. We'll have to remove the ATSC tuner board as well as the complete back panel to gain access to this. So let's get started. Okay, so there is the VCR mechanism with the circuit board completely removed from the unit. Now we need to go ahead and flip this unit completely over. And to disassemble the mechanism from the circuit board, there's 1 screw right here. There's another screw hiding under this ribbon cable. Don't forget to remove that screw. Be very, very careful when removing the screw with this ribbon cable still attached. If you do have advanced soldering skills, you can unsolder this ribbon cable, which I have done multiple times. But one of my commenters suggested that I can actually get to the screw by moving the cable out of the way. I'd never even thought about it because I like to do an effective job. I used to unsolder this ribbon cable, and this cable, and this one. So we'll go ahead and just gingerly move this out of the way and get to that screw underneath. All right, so because this cable has a couple of folds in it, it will allow you to lift it up and kind of swing it out of the way until you can get to that screw right there. Now remember, these are 2 different types of screws. This one is almost like a wood screw with a coarse thread. It's meant for plastics. And this one is a machine thread screw. Okay, so now that we've got those out, I'm going to go ahead and reach in and support the VCR mechanism while I lift. So basically I'm not lifting on the circuit board. And I'm just going to flip this back over. Now that it's flipped over, I can go ahead and lift it up. And then there is the mode switch right in the center of your screen. Okay, so with the mode switch exposed, remember this can be rotated. When it goes back together, it has to be in the same orientation that it came apart. But if you lift up very gently on the little plastic tab, it'll just unsnap. There are the contacts for the mode switch, and then there are the wipers for the mode switch. We're going to go ahead and clean all of that. So I'll go ahead and speed this up because it takes several scrubs to get it clean, but I'm going to take my stainless steel toothbrush and just go ahead and start scrubbing. I realize it's going to be a little jiggly because I'm just supporting this with one hand while I scrub with the other, but here we go. Okay, well look at the difference already. That thing is spotless at this point. Just a couple quick little scrubs. I think I might have missed a corner right here. All right, that certainly looks very good. Now we'll get a cotton swab and some magical solution acetone. People have asked me, why do I use acetone? Well, I've used it since the early 80s. It's always served me well. It's cheap, it's plentiful. You can buy it almost at any grocery store. If not, hardware stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, places like that. Everybody has it, and it's very effective on this type of switch. It does not eat this type of plastic, so you do not have to worry about it. It will eat some plastic, so you do have to be careful. But on the other side of that, you can use it for some type of plastic welding repairs as well. Okay, here we go. I've got my cotton swab soaked with acetone, and I'm just going to go ahead and wipe it around several times to clean the contacts in here. There we go. That looks excellent. Absolutely perfectly clean at this point. Next, we'll go ahead and smear some dielectric grease on there. Now, I think on this time, I'm not going to use my cotton swab to smear it because it does leave hairs. I'm just going to go ahead and put some on the tip of my finger and rub it around in there until it's smeared around really good. So I have a good amount right here. Now, a lot of this is going to go away once I fire up the unit. And then, of course, a lot of it is left on my finger as well, but I just want a good coat on the inside and all the contacts of the mode select switch, the rotary encoder. Next, we'll go ahead and clean the wipers off. Okay, so here are the contacts, the rotary portion, the movable portion of the mode select switch. I'm going to get my stainless toothbrush, and I'm just going to go ahead and brush these in one direction only. All right, that looks very good. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some acetone in that same direction only. And I'm rotating the cotton swab so you can see the gunk that came off of it right there. And then just to be safe, very small amount of dielectric grease. Dabbed right on the contacts. Next, we'll go ahead and snap it back together. And we'll run it around in both directions, probably 20 or 30 times each way to make sure that it seats correctly and it may clean any contaminants left behind. Okay, well there is a nice close-up view of the rotary encoder, the mode select switch. So I'm just going to go ahead and take the top and we'll set it back on there. It's hard to do with only one hand, so I have a second finger. Press it down, it's going to snap into place. Now the first couple of rotations, it's going to smear the grease around a little bit. After you've done a few rotations, it's going to distribute that silicon dielectric grease, and then everything is going to start to move very, very, very smoothly. Okay, I think we're ready for reassembly. Now, if you look very closely, you'll see a little part of a circle right up here on the tip. You want to make sure that you line up the post on this rotary encoder to that circle because it mates to that hole in the gear right here. So you have to make sure that the post goes through the center of the mode select switch, and then the post on the mode select switch goes into that hole right there. So let's go ahead and put those two back together very carefully. So there is the post into the center of the mode select switch right there. And then there it's aligned perfectly in the hole. Next, we'll go ahead and flip it back over, put the screws back in it. Okay, now we'll put our screws back in. Remember, the machine thread goes on the right-hand side. And the plastic thread goes very, very gently over here on the left. Go ahead and fold the ribbon cable back down. Now we'll go ahead and put it back together, but before we do that completely, we'll check the power supply capacitors for high ESR. Okay, I have the ESR meter out, the power supply board ready, all the positive leads unsoldered from the capacitors. Let's verify lead integrity first off. There we go. So let's go ahead and start checking these guys. First, up here, the AC input filter cap. 0.5 ohm, that's acceptable. The snubber capacitor, 4 ohms, it's a small cap, that's acceptable. Now we'll just go around the board. 1.5 ohms, that's a small little cap. 0, perfect. Just under 0, that's like a 100 microfarad cap, acceptable. Good. About a 1/4 ohm on that one. That's a small little cap. That's a 470. I think that's going to be okay. 0. 3/4 of an ohm, what value is that? That's a 22, that's perfectly fine. 0. That one's about 1 ohm. That's a 220. I'd like to see closer to 0. Yeah, lead's still good. Maybe we'll go ahead and change that one. And another 1 ohm. That's a 220. So let's go ahead. We'll change those two capacitors right there. Double check lead integrity on this one. It should be 0. And it is 0. That's the main 4700 microfarad capacitor. Okay, so we need to change these two caps. There were a couple down here that I was just slightly suspect of. We'll go ahead and change these two 220s and these two 470s, and just to be safe, I think I will go ahead and pop a new 4700 microfarad cap in there just to be safe, so this unit does not come back anytime soon. Okay, so I've got all the capacitors changed. Went ahead and changed that main 4700 microfarad cap, a couple of 220s and a couple of 470s. Got the new ones in place there. There's the 220s, there's the 470s, and of course the main 4700 microfarad cap right there. So let's go ahead and get this unit put back together. Okay, all back together. Power is on. Let's pop a tape into it. It should auto play because the record protect tab is removed from this tape. There we go, it's playing. Let's go ahead and hit fast forward search. Perfect. Reverse search. Perfect. We'll do a quick fast forward and rewind check. Fast forward. Rewind. Make sure it ejects the tape without eating it. All right, perfect. Next, let's go ahead and clean the real rotation detector underneath this gear. The emitter right here, the prism assembly that I just blocked and it tried to accept a tape. We'll clean the supply photosensor and the take-up photosensor over here. The take-up photosensor is what detects when a tape is in the unit. Hard to see, but there's this tab on the loading mechanism right here that actually blocks the sensor. So if I just put my finger in front of it, it's going to try to load the tape. That's how it knows you put a tape into it. So we'll clean the VCR mechanism and we'll service the DVD mechanism as well. I'll make a test recording to make sure the DVD does record. We'll get this back together and shipped back to the customer in Florida. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and clean the real rotation detector, which lives right here, the infrared emitter, which lives under this prism assembly, and then the supply and the take-up infrared receivers. So start by removing the single screw right here. Go ahead and pull the prism assembly up and out of the way. If you're so inclined, you can lift this gear up and out. It's retained when the prism is in place. So next, a cotton swab just moistened with regular household glass cleaner, nothing with ammonia. We'll go ahead and wipe off the infrared emitter. We'll wipe off the supply sensor, the take-up sensor, and then you'll have to remove some of the cotton from this. We'll go ahead and dry the real rotation sensor, the emitter, the supply, and the take-up sensors. Next, just go ahead and clean the exit to the prism. Clean the entrance to the prism. Dry those off. And then clean these two sides, which are the supply and the take-up emitter portion of the prism, and we'll dry those off as well. Go ahead and reinstall the gear back in place. We'll place the prism in place, and we'll put that one screw back in right there. Next, we'll go ahead and clean the entire tape transport. Anything the tape touches, we'll get some magical solution acetone out. I'm going to go ahead and put some in a little cup, and I'm just going to use regular cotton swabs. And I know people are going to say, as always, you cannot use cotton swabs to clean the video heads. Well, I've been doing this since the early 80s, almost 40 years now. And if you do it correctly and you clean the heads up here instead of down here, you won't have any problems whatsoever. Now, it's really hard to see, but the heads are these little cutouts right here. And you only want to clean the heads in a horizontal motion, back and forth, never up and down. It will damage the heads. They're very weak ferrite, and they're wound with a very fine wire. So as long as you clean it in horizontal motion, you'll be fine. Vertical, the game's over at that point. So I'm going to start by wiping off the heads, and I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up and put it in fast motion, because you've probably seen me do this 100 times already. Okay, VCR mechanism is finished. Let's go ahead and clean the optical pickup for the DVD mechanism next. Okay, on the ZV457, it does have this extra connector right here. The 427 model does not have this. Unplug that and these two large ribbon cables. Remove the 3 screws and the grounding tabs. Next, go ahead and just remove the circuit board and lay it up out of the way. Do not remove these 2 connectors right here. They do not need to be removed. Next, go ahead and release these tabs by pushing left on the right hand side and right on the left hand side. They can be removed, and then this cover can just be slid up and out of the way. I do find it easier if I remove this bracket, but in this case I did not have to. Putting it back together, you may have to remove this bracket. There is the optical pickup. Now, this one doesn't look too terribly bad, but we're going to go ahead and clean it anyhow. I've got an LED light shining on it right there, just at an angle to illuminate any dirt and any dust that's on the lens. So next, we're just going to go ahead and grab a regular old cotton swab, moistened, not soaked, with regular household glass cleaner. Once again, nothing with ammonia. Just go ahead and very, very lightly press down and clean only in circular motions while rotating the cotton swab to always have a clean surface. Next, we'll go ahead and dry it off in the same fashion. Very lightward down pressure while rotating the cotton swab around. Let's hit it with the light again. Well, to my eye, it looks much cleaner than it was. Let's go ahead and reassemble it now. And I'll go ahead and do a test recording and make sure everything works just fine. Okay, so I've got a blank DVD-R. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the unit. I have a VHS tape ready, and we'll let it load up real quick. And it tells me that it is a -R DVD, which it is. So let's go ahead and hit the record mode button. And I think I'm just going to set this up. This is a 6-hour tape, so we'll just go ahead and do the whole 6 hours and see if it records. Okay, here is the setup menu, general settings. So we'll go to recording, auto chapter every 5 minutes, that's fine. Auto finalize when the disc is full. Dubbing mode, VCR to DVD. Make recording compatible, on. Okay, well, I think that's all that we need. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit the dubbing button right now. VCR to DVD dubbing. And there it is, copying a VCR over to DVD. So we'll come back in a few hours and see if it finished dubbing correctly. All right, here we go. The disc has been recorded. I'm going to go ahead and close the drawer. It's going to load the disc. All right, there it is, loaded up the disc. Let's go ahead and hit play. We'll search through a few of the chapters. All right, there it is, up and playing. It recorded a complete 6-hour DVD. It finalized it, and now it's playing absolutely perfectly. Well, that's it. I just got to get it back together and hand it back to my customer, and we should be good to go. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed the repair on the Magnavox ZV457 MG9, replacing some capacitors in the power supply and cleaning the mode select switch. Go ahead and leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below. I try to read all the comments and respond when I have time. While you're down there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like this video. It really helps my channel grow. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at NorCal715. You can email me, NorCal715videos@gmail.com. Remember, with your help, we can try to keep these things out of the landfill, out of the recycle bin, and out of the e-waste facility. Everyone have a great day. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I really do appreciate it. Bye-bye.